I was born a small black child. Never forget those days on the Mississippi with no money, hopping up and down, singing around the campfire. I'm not a jerk, but oh sorry, I was channeling Steve Martin a little bit there, just to make a point. I came in here, this is another of these add-in video type sequences. I came in here because of the fact that finishing guns, gun finishes and gun finishing are a bit of a thing with me. I was born and raised without money. So doing things cost effectively is important to me. And gun finishes are important to me. And I have worked with a lot of gun finishes in my day. I have pretty much all of them. Let's see if I can get this to settle up here. You name it, I've done it. I mean, I was in gunsmithing school back in the day. We did, I've done rust bluing, I've done cold bluing. The rust bluing that we did back then, the things I was taught about, man, there's no lights in here. I'm gonna have to change this around. Gun finishes, though, are an item. They're a thing. Go over here and see if this works. Don't know if it's gonna work. And I've always been looking for the cost-effective way to do it. And as I said, I've done them all. We used to dissolve actual horseshoe nails in nitric acid and hydrochloric acid. And I've done hydro dipping, I've done regular conventional bluing, hot dip bluing. I got in a lot of trouble in school in the hot dip bluing rooms. I'll never forget. I can tell that story sometime. But finishing guns has always been a big thing with me. For many years I just had everything done in pre-finished stocks and stainless steel. And that's fine. You know, and form has always followed function with me, so it's never been that important, frankly, on my own stuff. You know, this is one of the many places I disagree with Speedy Gonzalez when he says, well, win or lose, at least do it looking good. I don't really care that much about looking good. So I came down here because I need to check on the latest thing that I'm playing with, the Cerakoting. And that's why I decided to come in. I came down here because I've had a Cerakote box cooking all night. And I want to do something called redneck Cerakoting. I'm panning this thing back and forth just to show you some of my roll arounds. Some of my, I've always been looking for a cost-effective, a cheap way to do gun finishes. Right now, hot dip bluing is really hard to come by. I really love the oxiding processes, the melaniting type, the QPC. That's a great black finish. That's a wonderful thing. But lately, with this new Creedmoor fanboy post-apocalyptic wannabe operator mindset that we've got going, Cerakoting has turned into a big thing. Cerakoting is everywhere. And frankly, I've got a Desert Eagle that's looks like it laid out in the desert and baked in the sun, bleached out like a bone, to speaking of post-apocalyptic. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff too. I have sent guns around the nation to be Cerakoted. Some of them, like, I had some good work done by Manners a long time ago, back in the Digicam era. I've got 3 local Cerakoters that I've used. And I've got a good friend. He would be my first cousin's son, ex-Marine. I think that'd make him a nephew. I don't know what he is. But anyway, he set up a complete high-end Cerakote cooking box. Does beautiful, beautiful work. But unfortunately, he's an excavator. So he's got the same problem I have, which is that he doesn't have any time right now. So I wanted to show you my latest and greatest thing here, and this lighting is going to be stupid because it's not about me. This is specifically about showing you what I did to produce what I call a redneck Cerakoting process. My good buddy who does beautiful work and has a state-of-the-art box, temperature controlled, a spray booth, everything, does flawless work, doesn't have time to do it right now. I've got some stuff I need to turn out, I need to weather coat for myself, and during this series, as you've known, during this series I've been messing with some stocks that are really bad. And I thought to myself, you know, self, you've done every kind of painting and coating in the world. The problem is this room I'm standing in right here was actually designed and built and conceived as a paint booth. It has cool stuff in the walls on all sides. It's actually really big. That wall right there is removable. It was put in because we turned this into a bedroom, which is none of your problem. But that's got swing outdoors. I can bring a car in here. At the time I built this, I had a 70 Challenger and a 69 Camaro and a jacked up truck, and this was going to be where I did all the work. Well, life goes on, things change. Simple fact is that right now I'm in a situation where I've got some super ugly stocks that I need to have. I need to do something with. I need to paint, I need to send them out, and everybody's busy in my life, the people that I know and trust. So, hence this. I came into this carpeted room, which has been turned from a, as I said, it does have a concrete floor. It was set up as a paint booth, but it became a bedroom because of life changes. So, now it's carpeted, got walls, whatever. Well, people are out of it now. So I'm in here on the carpet. I've got tarp down on the floor. I've got buckets of stuff around. I'm just panning around here to show you. And I got a wild hair that I'm just going to paint a couple of these stocks myself. I bought a bunch of sponges, and so I'm going to go through. This could be good for somebody because I started this with channeling a little Steve Martin about being raised a poor black child. You have to understand, I live in the real world. I pour concrete for a living. I don't have tons of money or time, and I never have both of them at the same time, and I think everybody's in that same boat. I'm a normal person. I'm just a regular old, I didn't set up, so when I decided I was going to paint some stocks, and I took a roll around, and I lined it with a cheap tarp, and I bought some lights. These lights, you can't really see, but they're clip-on lights that I bought, these super bright bulbs from Amazon. And I just lit up the inside of this thing like a monkey bear. I hung a thing up in here so that I can hang barrels in here. I'll show you that in just a minute. I got another big light up here on the side, which is a photography light that came out of a... Some of you will recognize that that is a photography light. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to do something called redneck Cerakoting. I'm going to show you what I did and how I'm approaching these stocks and doing these on the cheap. This light up here is actually kind of an expensive piece of kit because it came from another business. It was an online business that my wife and a friend were doing where they were photographing high-end parts and selling them. So this is just kind of an artifact that's kicking around. These little lights I bought for 10 or 12 bucks. I took this roll around, I wrapped it with plastic, I've got plastic on the floor, and I made myself a little spray booth. Now, this whole shop that I'm standing in, except this room, has got 160 psi of air pressure everywhere. I've got drains and bleeders and crap, but frankly, I don't have enough time to go through and set up my compressors. I've got HVLP sprayers, gravity feeds, aboves and belows, and airbrushes and all this stuff. I don't want to. I'm just not interested. I don't have the time. I'm trying to put together this stuff. I don't want to dink around with setting up the airbrushes, setting up the pressures, going in, spraying stuff, then cleaning the guns. So, I'm trying something. That's the reason that I'm, you know, as I said, I've got, even set up in here, I've got compressors, I've got regulators, I've got boxes of air stuff, but this is my new thing. Pre-valve. Doesn't matter. it looks like this. It is a little sprayer. You just dump anything you want into here and you hit the button and it sprays. It's a rattle can assembly. I got a little board set up in there to play with stuff on. And I am doing Cerakote. And it is, the difference is, I take it from the containers and I put it into Ziploc bags so that I can knead it and mix it and I can be clean about it. This is better than shaking. Cerakote's a goofy product in the fact that it settles out. It's got a lot of particulates, a lot of solids in it. And it's a thick, gooey, gummy, heavy build-up paint, but it's, you know, pretty tough. Tougher than woodpecker lips is the way I've heard it described before. Wow, it's hot in here under these lights. So, it's an okay system. Now, one of the problems that I've had with the local boys is that I brought stuff in and I've told them keep it out of the action. Oh, it doesn't even build up none. It's only 1,000. Well, that's all crap. Cerakote is just a paint. It's nothing special. It's a pretty tough paint. So what I've decided to do, because I can't access my hot cooker, I don't know, there's Cerakote A and B and C and whatever. The one you need to cook and the other one is called air dry, but if you air dry it under heat, it's pretty stinking tough. It's a tough paint, tougher than Krylon. And I've got these stocks that I've been putting together and building on the series, and they're ugly. And I came in, I set this up, I hosed them down with a base coat. Now I'm going to go back through and sponge paint them, make them look good, and, you know, make a good solid. And I had some barrels that had already been Cerakoted, and I had some that hadn't. And so I threw some of that into the mix too. And I'm matching colors and I play around. But I wanted to show you because I came in here because these have been cooking all night. I'm going to show you that right there is kind of the spray boothy area. But over here is the part I'm most proud of. And I have no idea where this camera is pointed. Okay. I think this was inspired. It's redneck. I am all about doing things on the cheap. And this, my friend, is cheap. This, anybody can do. I'm going to run this down so you can see what I've done here. That yellow thing there in the middle is a heat gun. Then I got a piece of muffler pipe and I bored a hole in the side of this. Bought this from Home Depot. This thing right here is a Home Depot, I don't know what you call it, big garbage can. Disposal can. I bored a hole in the side of it. I'm running that heat gun into it. This is hot inside. I mean hot. I'm cooking. I'm at 250 some degrees in here. I'm air curing like a banshee. So I'm going to back this up and show you how I set this up, because I told you I was going to document the things I do, warts, feathers, and all. And this is some of the stuff that I do. This is cheap, but still good quality. Cerakoting. As cheap a setup as you're gonna. Whew. As I said, I have access to people who have good setups, high-end cookers, hot Cerakote. This, on the other hand, is air dry, and what I've done is I've slobbered some base coats. Here's how I do. These barrels are actually Cerakoted correctly, but I threw a light matching coat on because I'm changing color on these. And I ran these in to cook. They've got an air dry coat for color match. This is a cheap piece for one of the stocks that's in here. And I'm showing you these things. This is a way of hanging a stock. I can hold it, I can spray it, I can move it, I can do. Here's another one in here, in this little garbage can. These are prepped. These are hot, they're essentially cooked. Inside this garbage can, I did use a new garbage can because as red-necked as I am, trying to avoid the smell, these have been cooking in here overnight. 2 barrels with a great base coat on them, but the base coat was in a carbon something or another. It was a good looking thing, but I wanted to add a little matte and I wanted to add a little green to it. Because one of these barrels goes in this stock that's got the green and the sand base coat on it. And all I've done, when I say base coat, now understand, this is the one I'm talking about right here. This is base coat is a couple of contrasting colors. And it's cooked on here as this toughens up air dry Cerakote to where the argument can be made that it's not as strong as cooked Cerakote, but it's pretty stinking strong. It's strong enough that it wears on a stock like iron. So this assembly right here is really what I came in here. I came in here to check, make sure I hadn't melted anything, make sure my spinner was still running down here. You can hear whoa, 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 whoa. And I thought, you know what? I am going to whip the camera on and give you guys a little dissertation on how maybe one of you somewhere will decide, you know what? The most expensive thing in this whole mess was this garbage can, which by the way, I'm a homeowner, I use the garbage can, or I will, or I can, it's not, and the roll around in the other room. Tarps are cheap, the pre-val spray assemblies are cheap. Now they are rattle canned. Those of you who know about airbrushing will immediately notice that these edges are not as cleanly cut as they would have been with an airbrush. But you know what? This is a base coat. I'm going to do sponge coat over the top of this, or a flame job, or I've got other ways. But I set this up and hammer down and threw these out yesterday evening. I just decided, you know what? I'm gonna throw some paint on a bunch of these stocks that I'm building, get them base coated, so that I can now finally, and when I say finally, I don't mean like I've been waiting, but do the final bedding job on them, get them ready to shoot and ready to paint. And as this series progresses, I want to have these looking a little better when I start shooting them on video. So this is my redneck Cerakoting episode. I'm going to now turn this off. This is how hard this is. Boom. These are cooked. They've been going all night. They're hard as a bone. Leave them set in there. This is actually a decent Cerakoting job. There's nothing wrong with it. Roll around, spray booth with some bright lights. The biggest thing is lighting. That whole room right there has got power circuits, alternating power circuits all the way around it, so that I can run alternating vertical lights in that room for painting cars, because there's nothing where I've painted a lot of cars in the past. You get around to a point and all of a sudden you're doing this and you're trying to find how to lay the paint on. Laying paint on is an art. It's hard. So painting guns is just as hard. You have to have a way to hold the gun. That's why I did this. I'm like, people that have never done this before. These happen to be quarter 28 because I use a ton of quarter 28. Big washers on here. Wood stake, 1/4 inch rod, and coupler. Just down at the hardware store, bought them out of couplers again this morning because this threaded coupler goes in. This is just a nut. Some washers. Now I can get the angle on this. I can get it in the spray booth. I can get the look at it that I want. Because as I've said in some of my other videos, when it comes to glass bedding, painting, stuff, preparation is everything. Going with a plan, which I did. I've got a roll around set up for a spray booth, tons of light, a way to hold it, and out here I've got a modified garbage can with a heat source. Hang these in here, let them cook for at 200 and whatever degrees. I don't even have a thermometer in there. I don't care. I'm just running them hot. Okay? So these are just running at whatever heat this thing will generate, which I know it's hot. I got my hand in there, and they're cooking up tight. Now I've got these base coats. I can take them in the other room. I'll still preheat them in here, and I can do my sponge coats or my dabs or my layouts, or I might even do some little airbrush work. I might airbrush some lettering on there. The sky's the limit, but preparation is everything. And there's nothing worse than getting halfway through a bedding job or halfway through a painting job and realizing that you've painted yourself into a corner. Classic, old school, painted yourself into a corner. That's where it comes from. So this covers everything from start to finish, from a painting booth to a cooking booth. And the air system is this Preval. When I'm done with the Preval cans, I disassemble them and I throw them in a jug of, I've got a little, I don't know, maybe a 2-quart container full of acetone. And so far, I've been able to pull them out of the acetone, blow them out, change colors, start painting again. So think about it. Roll around, Preval, garbage can, heat source. It works.